Hello, my name is John. I'm newly diagnosed with ADHD and I'm over 50 years old. I've been experiencing what some call ADHD paralysis, which led me to getting prescribed meds 30 days ago. And I wanted to talk about my experience. But before I get into all that, I want to give a little disclaimer. This is not medical advice. Your situation is not my situation. I'm not an expert on this. I'm not a doctor. Anything you need for yourself to manage your ADHD or find out if you have it should be done through a medical professional. So just take this as a story of my journey. If it inspires you to do something with your life and helps you in any way, that's the only intention of this. Yeah. So about a year ago, I was diagnosed with ADHD, as an adult, of course. I wasn't diagnosed as a child. I always looking back now, I can see where ADHD gave me difficulties in life. And probably the reason I wasn't diagnosed as a child was it seems like my generation was for people got diagnosed as a child because they had a hard time in school. And I was I was an average student, didn't do great, didn't do horrible. So that's probably why it wasn't an issue or diagnosed at a young age. And the reason I did get diagnosed was my son was having issues at college. So he's diagnosed later in life also. And we were brainstorming, going back and forth on stuff and thought, probably what we're dealing with is ADHD. He went to his doctor and got diagnosed and was put on meds also. And then told me, he says, "Dad, that's who we are. That's probably the underlying thing that we're dealing with that's, in our lives." And so I went and got diagnosed out of curiosity. And doctor was like, "So why are you here?" I'm like, "Well, I'm just curious. My son was diagnosed with it. Kind of suspected after, things I've learned and just for curiosity's sake, I want to know." He's like, "Okay, because if you've been functioning this far in life and never been diagnosed for it, obviously you're high functioning." I says, "Yeah, I get that, but I need to know because maybe it'll help me deal with things, that I struggle with." So I was diagnosed with it. Wasn't, strong uh, on the scale, but it was there. And so now we jump ahead to, a little over 30 days ago. I was experiencing what some call ADHD paralysis. And what that was for me was I could not function. I was basically riding the couch. Reason I'm able to, well, I should say the reason why this happens to me more so than maybe some people is I'm self-employed and I don't have any employees. So I don't have that accountability weighing on me all the time to get me going. And that really helps with ADHD is accountability. It's a motivation. It's like, nope, I got to perform today. People need me, that kind of thing. So being self-employed and you don't have a job on the, currently, it's real easy to just spiral into other stuff and not do anything. And so tasks that aren't as urgent, for me, I need accountability. I need deadlines. And when you're only accountable to yourself, not having a spouse or a child that's relying on you to get something done, it's easy to slip, for me at least. So I was experiencing ADHD paralysis and it was the most debilitating feeling I've ever had in my life. I basically knew exactly what I wanted to do. I had my list. I've been using lists for a long time, like a lot of us do. And I could not get myself to do it. I mean, literally, I couldn't get out of the chair and just do it. I was the internal narrator, what people talk about, the inner voices. I couldn't convince myself that it was worth doing or whatever it was. It was that was keeping me from doing anything. And it was starting to trickle into days in a row. It wasn't like whole weeks, but there were several days a week where I just sat on the internet all day. Even though I knew I had stuff to do, I'd talk whatever. It's not to dive into that part of it. This is more about the using the meds. So, um, so my son, talking with him back and forth, he's like, "Dad, you really need to go to the doctor now. This is obviously beyond you if you're going days on end and you're telling me about this, and I really hope you go to the doctor." So I hadn't been to the doctor for years. I called the clinic near me that my healthcare provider covers and, I'm like, "Do you have a psychiatrist?" Because I was considering meds. And she's like, "Well, for what reason?" I says, "Well, I think I'm having problems with ADHD and I want to discuss options." She goes, "Well, we have doctors here that can deal with that. We don't have a psychiatrist, but we have a doctors that, you know, deal with that." I'm like, "Okay." So I went and I had an appointment for the very next day. So I was like, "Great, let's just jump right in and get this done." So now I'm kind of getting this rush of, we're going to deal with this. And I'm getting that little dopamine hit for, yes, we're doing something. So I'm starting to get charged just off of this, the idea of this, what's going to happen next. And so me knowing now that what I was dealing with a lot of my life was dealing with ADHD and how I was self managing it, realizing things I was doing was unhealthy, was caffeine, sugar, um, so soda and, overeating, that kind of stuff was giving me a dopamine hit. And that's what's contributed to my weight gain, which, you know, that was the unhealthy stuff I was doing. But I was also doing healthy stuff like walking, exercise, gym, hobbies, interests that, helped me with management. And that's probably why I went so long without needing any type of help for it directly, because my self management was doing well. But what had changed was I was taking care of my 90-year-old father with Alzheimer's dementia. He's living with me. I'm dealing with it solo with no backup and that kind of stuff, which is very stressful. So I think that's what kind of triggered me to spiral and not do so much with self-management, self-care type stuff. And not to blame him or that situation. It's my choice. I don't regret it. I don't blame him, of course. It's just not being able to deal with the stress is the way I look at it. So wanting to make a clean start, I really wanted to get off of sugar, high sugar and caffeine, soda and that kind of stuff, and not have that impact me as I start out on this. So I fasted for over 24 hours before the doctor visit, wanting to kind of reset my eating and my appetite and the way I crave food and try to have a fresh start with this and make sure it was more effective ultimately. So went to the doctor, told her what was going on, and she's like, "Do you want to try meds?" I'm like, "Yep, that's why I'm here. I think I'm ready to try that." And so she's prescribed me fast acting, which means prescribed 2 or twice a day, um, every 4 to 6 hours. And so I don't take it every day. I shouldn't say I don't take it twice a day every day. I take it once a day pretty much every day. And it works fast. You feel a presence coming on. You feel it entering your system like in 15, 20 minutes. It's new to me because I don't use caffeine or alcohol. I shouldn't say caffeine. I do use caffeine. I don't use nicotine or alcohol or recreational drugs. And I don't like stimulants like that, with the exception of caffeine. Um, you feel a presence. You feel it entering your body, and it feels intrusive if you've never had that type of feeling before. It wasn't a bad feeling. It was just a presence that I was never experienced before. So, and that diminishes over time. So definitely get an impact immediately. It's not like some meds where, you got to get in your system for 30 days before you notice a difference. This works the first dose. And this being fast acting, it leaves your system pretty quickly too. You can get all day, slow release also. But I wanted the fast acting because I'm worried about it impacting me with my type of work. And I get pretty good dopamine hit from the type of work I do. And so when I'm busy, I'm thinking I'm probably not going to need it, but we're not going to read too far in the future. Right now, we just have to get back to some sense of normal, my life being normal. Um, and it's also an appetite suppressant, which it's definitely, put you this way, the busier you are, the less you think about eating. Um, And me cutting out the soda and the high sugar stuff, I don't have, that sugar buzz wearing off like you normally do when you're on sugar. So I don't have those cravings that pop up as, eat some sugar and, you know, stuff that's high in sugar. And then as it burns off, you can feel it. You're not going to fight off sugar, that sugar rush and sugar cravings. So I like that. I, purge myself of that because, yeah, I would probably still be using sugar. Because I have tried, some stuff with higher sugar recently, and it's like, oh, nope, that sugar thing is there. And it's not, yeah, I could definitely fall back into that. And so Point being, it definitely for me was a benefit to cut out the soda and the high sugar stuff. I feel much more even. I actually just feel a lot better from getting that out of my system anyways. Sleeping better, that kind of stuff. But with the appetite suppressant part, um, like I said, you don't busier you are, the less you think about food, and you almost have to keep self-conscious and aware of it, which is new to me because I was always kind of dealing with cravings, and I don't have those continuous cravings now. So I'm probably, I'm doing calorie deficiencies now or lower calorie days than I used to. And I've cut over 14 pounds in 30 days, which I'm not complaining about. And I'm grateful because it needs to come off of me. I'm glad it's leaving off of me, So you can poo poo it and critique it and say it's all because of the meds. Well, I cut sugar, I cut soda, and that's by my decision, and I'm staying off of it. I could easily go back to it if this isn't keeping me from using it. I've decided not to use it, and I've done it before. So the meds definitely help with staying off of it because you don't have those cravings and those urges to do that for your dopamine release. But it definitely makes it easier to not eat as much. And I'm even having days where I don't feel like the meds are working. And those are days I'm not eating enough. And I've noticed that when I eat a little bit or eat something, that my brain wakes up. So it's like, oh my gosh, I was probably, my brain was depleted of calories or whatever, what it needed to operate normally. So it's not a magic pill. It doesn't counteract, you being low on calories and your brain not feeling right. Like you get kind of hard to focus and absent-minded and that kind of stuff if you're not eating enough food. Yeah, it won't counter that. So like I said, I've got to pay attention to my diet now and make sure I'm eating enough calories a day to get through the day. Whereas before I was always kind of constantly grazing, which I was overeating. So it's definitely helping with the weight loss too. So I'm happy with that. And I'm happy with my productivity. My productivity has increased dramatically. And the reason why I'm making this video, I used to do YouTube stuff and Facebook videos and stuff like that and kind of drifted away from it. And in the last 30 days, I've done, I think, 20 short videos and 12 long form videos and got monetized on Facebook where I've never even made the attempt to get monetized on Facebook. So yeah, it's really flipped a switch into me, but it only works because I want to do that stuff. So if you're already having issues with getting stuff done and not knowing how to operate, because some people got ADHD, worse than others. But, for me, I already had a life that I was, functioning mostly in before this. And so I'm just re-implementing the stuff I did before. It's just that the meds are allowing me to do it where I had a barrier before. The ADHD paralysis for me was basically the door was shut and I couldn't walk through it. And the meds have opened the door, but I still have to walk through it. And that's simple terms in a nutshell of how my experience with the meds are. So yeah, of course, is it right for you? I can't say that. If you're feeling the need to check into it and find out options about, like, maybe it could help you, yeah, definitely go talk to your medical professional and see if it's right for you. Yeah, leave a comment if you could, please. I appreciate it greatly. If you're willing to subscribe, that would be awesome. So have a great day, everybody. We'll talk to you soon. God bless.